So what is that one big impossible dream you have tucked away in the back of your mind?
Oh, we all have one.
Right. You know the exact one I'm talking about. That one idea you barely even admit to yourself, let alone say out loud to anyone else.
Yeah, the really scary one.
Exactly. So today on the deep dive, we're looking at exactly why we give up on those dreams before we even try. We'll get into, how a totally different approach to planning can bring them back to life and why changing our biological reaction to failure might be, well, the only secret we actually need.
It's a really powerful topic.
It really is. And actually, before we really get moving, just a quick note for you, our listener. We know a lot of you use these deep dives to practice listening to and learning English.
Which is great, by the way.
It is. So today, we're purposely keeping things pretty relaxed. We're going straight into just the everyday language. We're going to speak at a steady, deliberate pace.
Yeah, there's no need to rush.
Right. You don't have to worry about rushing to keep up or, getting lost in lots of complicated jargon. This is just a space for you to sit back, follow the conversation, and absorb these ideas really easily.
I think it's really the perfect topic for a slower pace, too. Because taking our time, it allows us to really unpack the psychology of why we hold ourselves back.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because like you said, everyone has that hidden dream. But to understand how to pull it out of hiding and actually achieve it, we have to look at the exact moment most of us decide to just abandon it forever.
And that usually happens pretty early on, doesn't it?
Oh, almost always right at the beginning. Usually the very first time we try to share it with the world.
Right, like you finally gather the courage to say it out loud. You sit down with a friend or a family member and you say, I want to start my own business, or I want to write a novel, or even just I want to move to a new country.
And we all know what happens next.
We do. The person across from you raises their eyebrows, they lean back, and they ask one simple question. And how exactly are you going to do that?
It's such a common reaction, right?
Yeah.
They raise their eyebrows, which is just this universal expression of doubt.
Yeah, you see the eyebrows go up and your stomach just drops.
Exactly. But the real damage is in the question itself. How are you going to do that? On the surface, it sounds like a practical question about logistics.
Sure, it sounds helpful even.
Right. But underneath, it functions as a giant stop sign.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit, because why does that specific question completely deflate us? We hear, how are you going to do that? And instead of answering, we just go quiet.
We just shut down.
Yeah, we put the dream away. We convince ourselves that we're being foolish. Why does a simple question about logistics have the power to just kill a dream on day one?
Well, it's because it triggers this really profound sense of insecurity. When you first have a big dream, it's incredibly fragile.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't have all the answers yet. You just have the desire to do the thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when someone suddenly demands this exact detailed roadmap and you realize you don't have one.
You feel like a fraud.
Yes. Your brain interprets that lack of a plan as a personal failure. The question just makes you feel small, like a kid pretending to be an adult.
Oh, wow, yeah. You feel like you've been caught doing something you aren't supposed to be doing. Because society has this unspoken rule that adults are supposed to be realistic, right?
Absolutely.
Like, if you have a steady job and you suddenly announce you want to become a painter, people treat you like you're just being irresponsible.
They treat dreaming as if it's a character flaw.
Yeah.
But if we look closely at the history of, any major achievement, we see a completely different reality. Every single great thing in the world today, every company, every piece of art, every medical breakthrough, it all started as a fragile idea that made someone else raise their eyebrows.
Someone definitely asked them, how are you going to do that?
Oh, guaranteed. And the underlying concept we really need to embrace here is what the text calls the signal concept. A dream is not irresponsible. A dream is simply a signal.
Let's break that down. A signal. So it's just information.
Exactly.
Just information.
It's your mind communicating with you, telling you where it wants to go, what it wants to build, or, who it wants to become. Viewing it as a signal just kind of takes all the judgment out of it.
It completely neutralizes the guilt. Think of it like a car. If your car dashboard flashes a signal that you need fuel, you don't sit there feeling irresponsible.
Right. You don't judge yourself for needing gas.
No, you just read the signal and decide what to do next. A dream is just your internal dashboard lighting up.
I love that. When I think about this signal concept, I immediately picture a compass, like a compass you'd use if you were lost in the woods.
Well, that's a great analogy.
Right. A dream is like that compass. Now, a compass is very different from a map. A map has all the roads drawn out. A map shows you every turn, every river you have to cross, every mountain in your way. It gives you all the logistics.
Exactly. But a compass doesn't do any of that. It just has a little needle pointing north.
And if you're lost, knowing which way is north is literally the most valuable information you can have.
Right.
The mistake we make is demanding that the compass acts like a map. When that person asks you, how exactly are you going to do that? They're asking for the map.
And because you only have a compass, you just assume you're completely unprepared.
Yes.
But you would never throw away a perfectly good compass just because it doesn't show you exactly where to step for the next 10 miles. You trust the general direction.
Exactly.
But, okay, that does lead us into a pretty massive roadblock. If a dream is just a compass pointing the way, and we don't have a map, how do we actually start walking? Because if we just stay parked, we go nowhere.
Well, having a big dream is never the actual problem. The problem is believing that dreaming is enough or, waiting until the map magically appears before you take a step. We have to fundamentally redefine what a plan actually is. Most of us operate under this assumption that a plan has to be flawless on day one.
Oh, for sure. We think we need the budget finalized, the timeline perfectly organized, all the problems solved before we even begin.
We want a guarantee. We want to know that if we start, we will 100% succeed. But a real plan doesn't look like that at all. A real plan is simply the first step and then the next one and then the one after that.
So it's about breaking it down to the immediate present.
Yes. And this boils down to one incredibly useful question you can ask yourself right now. Whenever you feel overwhelmed by the size of your dream, you have to stop looking at the 10-year goal.
Okay, so what do we ask instead?
You ask yourself this specific question. What can I do today with what I have from where I am?
Let's actually repeat that slowly for everyone listening, because those everyday words hold the entire secret, I think.
Well,
what can I do today with what I have from where I am?
It's so simple, but so effective.
It really is. Focusing on those three conditions today, what I have, where I am, it just instantly removes the pressure.
It eliminates the fantasy of tomorrow. It forces you into reality. Like, let's say your dream is to write a book.
Okay.
If you look at the whole project, you panic. You think, I need 6 months of free time, a cabin in the woods, and a publisher.
Right, which you don't have, so you do nothing.
Exactly. But if you ask, what can I do today with what I have from where I am?
Yeah.
Well, the answer changes. You have a notebook. You have 15 minutes after dinner. You're sitting at your kitchen table. You can write one paragraph. That is the plan.
That is the plan. It removes the excuse of waiting. And waiting is probably the biggest trap of all, right?
Oh, easily.
We wait for the perfect moment. We tell ourselves, we'll start when we have more money saved up, or we'll start when the kids are older, or when we have more experience, or when our friends are more supportive.
We wrap our fear up in practical-sounding excuses.
Yes, we convince ourselves we're being responsible by waiting.
But the hard truth is that the perfect moment rarely just shows up on your doorstep. The perfect moment is built. It's constructed exactly when you decide to start, even if you feel completely unready.
Even though starting before you're ready goes against all of our natural survival instincts.
Totally.
Let's visualize this waiting game for a second. Waiting for the perfect moment to chase a dream. It's like sitting in your car in your driveway with the engine running and refusing to press the gas pedal until every single traffic light in the entire city turns green at the exact same time.
That is a great way to put it, because that analogy only works if you're willing to eventually hit a red light.
Right. If you sit in your driveway waiting for all green lights, you're just going to sit there until you run out of gas. It's mathematically impossible.
You have to put the car in drive. You drive to the first intersection. The light might be red, so you stop and wait.
And then it turns green, and you drive to the next one.
Exactly. You have to be in motion to see the lights change. The perfect moment doesn't exist out there in the city. You build it by putting the car in gear and leaving the driveway.
But of course, leaving the driveway guarantees that you will hit traffic. Starting before you're ready guarantees that things will not go perfect.
It absolutely will not.
You'll hit roadblocks, you'll make mistakes, face unexpected challenges. So, we need to look at how the people we admire handle those inevitable bumps in the road.
Yeah. Think about anyone you look up to. An athlete, an author, a business leader, or even just, a community leader in your neighborhood. They didn't reach their goals because the universe magically removed all the obstacles for them.
No, they didn't get there because it was easy.
They got there because they kept trying when it was hard. When they hit a red light, they didn't turn around and go home. They adjusted the plan. They found an alternate route. And most importantly, they didn't let the fear of failure become bigger than their desire to try.
That's a huge point. The fear of failure never actually goes away, does it? We look at successful people and we just assume they're fearless. But they feel the exact same fear we do. Their desire to simply see what happens was just, a little bit louder than their fear of looking foolish.
Which brings us to a really massive shift in how we process setbacks. We have to completely change our definition of the word failure.
Okay, how so?
Well, from a very young age, especially in school, we're taught that failure is the exact opposite of success.
Right, like you take a test, you either get an A, which is success, or an F, which is failure.
Exactly. They are presented as two totally different destinations.
But in the pursuit of a big dream, failure is not the opposite of success. It's a necessary part of the journey. Every time something doesn't go the way you hoped, you learn something that you just could not have learned any other way.
You discover a boundary, you figure out what doesn't work.
And that isn't losing, that is moving forward.
Right.
But,
yeah.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate for a minute here.
Sure, go for it.
Because saying failure is just part of the journey sounds really wonderful on like a motivational poster.
It does.
But in real, everyday life, failing hurts. When you launch a small business and nobody buys your product, or, I don't know, you write a blog and nobody reads it, your stomach drops, your face gets hot, you feel embarrassed.
Oh, it's an awful feeling.
It is. So how do we actually convince ourselves in that painful, sweaty moment that we are just moving forward?
Well, to understand how to do that, we have to look at the biology of why failure feels so bad in the first place. When you try something publicly and it doesn't work, your brain perceives it as a threat to your social standing. And thousands of years ago, if you lost your social standing in the tribe, well, you were left alone in the wilderness to die.
Oh, wow.
So your brain treats a failed business idea the exact same way it treats a tiger jumping out of the bushes.
Are you serious?
I am. It triggers the amygdala, right? The fear center of the brain. It pumps you full of adrenaline. That's why your stomach drops.
Yeah.
It is a literal biological fight or flight response.
Wait, so my body is literally preparing to run for my life just because my new website crashed or my idea got rejected?
Yes. Your brain is just trying to protect you from the pain of being rejected by the group.
Yeah.
But here is the incredible part about how our minds work.
Okay.
You can actually override that ancient biological response with cognitive reframing.
How does that work?
Well, if your goal was to be perfect on the first try, your brain sees the mistake as a tiger. But if you consciously change the goal, if you tell yourself that the goal is simply to gather data and learn what works, you literally change the threat level.
I see. So I'm shifting the target. I'm moving the goalpost so that a mistake is no longer a threat.
Precisely. When you consciously change your vocabulary, like when you stop saying I failed and you force yourself to say I learned, something physical happens in your brain.
Really? Just from changing the word?
Yes. You shift the electrical activity away from the emotional panic center, the amygdala, and you move it into the prefrontal cortex. That's the logical problem-solving part of your brain. You literally change the chemistry of the moment just by changing the words you use to describe it.
That is absolutely wild. So reframing isn't just like positive thinking. It's an actual biological tool to calm your nervous system down.
Exactly.
When you reframe a mistake as gathering data, you turn off the alarm bells. You tell your brain, there is no tiger, we are just doing a science experiment.
That's a perfect way to put it.
Right, because if a scientist mixes two chemicals and they don't turn blue, the scientist doesn't start crying and quit their job. They just write down, chemicals did not turn blue, and they adjust the formula.
They gathered data. They are now smarter than they were yesterday. They've adjusted the compass. Discovering what doesn't work is just an essential, unavoidable step in figuring out what does work.
So as we bring all these ideas together, let's talk directly to you, the listener. Let's go back to the very beginning of this deep dive. Let's go back to that dream you have tucked away.
The one you've been putting off.
The one that feels entirely too big and, too complicated for you right now.
I think the overarching message of everything we've discussed today is simply this. Your dream is not too big.
It is not too big. It's just a signal from your mind. It's a compass needle. You don't need the map. You just need to follow the closing instructions we've been circling around today. Start small if you need to. Start today if you can. But start.
Just start.
Yeah.
It takes the pressure off entirely. You don't need the perfect plan. You don't need all the green lights. You just need to look at what you have today, right where you are, and take one tiny, messy, imperfect step.
I really love that. And, I want to leave you with one final, slightly provocative thought to mull over as you go about your day. We spent a good amount of time talking about that person at the very beginning, the naysayer,
Right.
the friend or family member who raises their eyebrows, leans back, and asks, "And how exactly are you going to do that?"
The person who triggers all of our doubt.
Yeah.
Ah.
Think about that person for a moment. What if they aren't actually judging your dream at all? What if they are simply projecting their own abandoned dreams onto you?
Oh, wow. That changes the dynamic completely. It means their doubt isn't about you at all. It's about them.
Exactly. What if they are reacting out of their own hidden regret? Because maybe, 10 or 20 years ago, they had a big dream too, a compass needle they wanted to follow.
But they let the perfect moment pass them by.
Right. They waited for all the lights to turn green and they never left the driveway. And now they see you getting ready to put the car in gear and it scares them because it reminds them that they could have started too.
Viewing it that way requires a lot of empathy, but it completely removes the sting from their criticism. They aren't trying to tear you down, they were just speaking from a place of fear.
And if that's true, if their doubt is actually just an echo of their own unfulfilled potential, then think about what your next action means. What if your decision to ignore their doubt? What if your decision to finally take that incredibly small, imperfect first step today is exactly the inspiration that person needs?
By choosing to start, you aren't just building a path for yourself. You're proving to everyone watching that the driveway doesn't have to be the final destination.
You might be the exact spark they need to finally dust off their own compass tomorrow. So grab your compass, look around at what you have right now, today, and take that first step. Keep practicing, keep listening, and keep moving forward.